of the consultations on the Tobago Constitution Amendment Bill and the Tobago Island Government Bill. We look forward to your comments and we'd like to thank those who have already commented. I understand our next stakeholder is Shirley Cook. Ms. Cook, you have the floor. Right. We're not hearing Ms. Cook, but I understand that there's another person who is.
I'm here. I was not hearing you.
Okay, so Ms. Cook, you have the floor.
Right. Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening to the members of the committee. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to address you today. I'm guided by your concern that we do not be repetitious, as there were many things that were already said. And I'm not going to belabor those points, but I'm going to highlight some of the things that I believe that was not highlighted before and things that I need clarity on or to add to the discussion. With respect to, again, I did not discuss clause. I'm discussing the issues on each section. With respect to the clarification, if we have to believe what the Attorney General says in terms of the boundaries, outside of defining, giving Tobago a definition, which according to him would allow us to lose marine space, there must be some mechanism, even if you may have indicated that, and I want to know if this is what you mean. There must be a mechanism to give Tobago the authority over a jurisdiction that affords it the ability to determine in Tobago the political, economic, social, and cultural development. So what I'm asking you, Madam Chair, is by discussing the Planning and Facilitation Act, is it under that body that you would be able to afford Tobago those parameters?
The Planning and Facilitation of Development Act talks specifically about issues surrounding the town and country planning division. And so it will be those kinds of issues that the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act deals with.
Not necessarily the jurisdiction or parameter areas under which Tobago can exercise jurisdiction with respect to the 4th and 5th schedule.
No. The 4th and 5th schedule are specific to the Constitution Amendment Bill that is being proposed.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. Secondly, with respect to I listened yesterday to Mr. Hojoy Charles' presentation, and I've been trying to grapple with this situation. We are discussing two bills, one to change the Constitution to afford Tobago autonomy, and the second one is to provide the provisions under which Tobago can have that autonomy. That is my understanding. I'm not an attorney. It therefore means, what bothers me about that is the fact that once the act, the provision to grant Tobago's autonomy is going to be enshrined in the Constitution, Tobago therefore would need 50 of the about 72 members in government to change any parts of that act. Am I correct?
Yeah, if it's to change any part of the Constitution amendment, there is the need for a 3/4 majority in the
Yes.
House of Representatives and a 2/3 majority in the Senate.
So outside of
The objective is to entrench these provisions in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago.
as much as there are some positives in that, I am probably not liking the fact that all of these matters are enshrined in the Constitution and therefore puts Tobago at a disadvantage should it decide to change any part of that, even though throughout the morning you keep reminding us that it is one Trinidad and Tobago. The fact remains that we only would have 2 representatives out of a body of about 72 persons in the parliament. So that part concerns me a little bit, and I would like to see some effort being made to address that, because it may sound good now, but I think in the future it would be a challenge for Tobago.
I understand your point. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But let me say that previously the Tobago House of Assembly had not been entrenched in the Constitution, and consequently the request was from the bill that came to us to be discussed and to be determined by the Joint Select Committee was that it should be entrenched in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. But you can go on to your next point. Thank you very much.
Yes, okay, but what I'm saying, I'm of the opinion that the Bill of Rights or items that Tobago should be responsible for under a Bill of Rights arrangement should be entrenched, but all the governance structures that we are discussing does not necessarily need to be entrenched. In addition to that, the Premier should be able, should we put some of those into an act of parliament that we would be able to change, we should have something added to that that says that the act for the Tobago Island government cannot be changed unless it is directed to do so by the Premier. So what happened in Tobago with respect to the 6-6 tie, and the Parliament took it upon themselves to change the act, that will no longer occur. But Tobago would have the flexibility to change items in the act without having to have about 50 of a 72-person parliament to make that decision. Okay.
We understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
Let me say that it's 2 bills. One is the Constitution Amendment Bill, and the other one is the Tobago Island Government Bill. So it's 2 bills that deal with certain aspects of the proposed internal self-government. So one is to be entrenched, and the other one is a normal piece of legislation. But we understand what you're saying.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, another point that I would like to bring up, it is with respect to the statement made by Dr. Soyafat Angus this morning with respect to civil society involvement in the governance of Tobago. And I just need to add to that, considering the fact that you recommended a unicameral legislature, to me, it's even more important, in addition to the fact that the executive premier has a lot of appointment powers, that Tobago needs internal oversight. And that body for oversight should come from a civil society arrangement, because what I would prefer here in Tobago is a greater participatory type of governance for Tobago rather than what we have seen in the past. So I just wanted to make that point.
For that point.
Thank you. With respect to the dissolution of the House and the fact that it's mentioned, which I'm happy about, that the minority leader will continue for oversight. I would like to add to that, should the committee agree with a Tobago House with the civil society participation, and mind you, I would like to have those persons be elected positions so there is less political interference in the oversight that will be necessary. With respect to the dissolution of the House, that new body of oversight should continue with a dissolved House, so we do not end up in the situation we are in presently with no proper oversight when the Tobago Assembly cannot be properly constituted. In addition to that, there is no tie-breaking mechanism, and again, that probably can happen in the legislature, the presiding officer, the rules, but I'm saying that I did not see any of that. I also
we did say today that issues like the tie breaking and so on can be dealt with in the standing orders.
Yes, madam, I agree. Yes, you did. I want to address also the issue of national security. Yes, is central government's portfolio, but I'm thinking about the internal security for Tobago with respect to, state assets and all of that. Again, are you saying that that is going to be part of the legislative charge for Tobago? I did not see anything that says that.
National security issues are not legislated by national security remains the purview of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, as does foreign affairs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but what I'm saying, outside of that, there should be something that affords Tobago some level of internal security to manage some level of that with respect to its, state buildings, tourism assets, and all of that stuff. I just wanted to make that submission. With respect to the Public Service Commission, one of the things that plague us here in Tobago is the shuffling of administrators. And I know that was mentioned, but I just wanted to make the point that it's important not to have a premier so much involved in transferring and moving administrators amongst divisions. Just wanted to ensure that I make that point. With respect to the 6.8 allocation, I noted the Minister of Finance yesterday indicated that the means or the measures by which they decided or they came up with a 6.8. I would have thought, and I hope that it would still be possible, that they can engage an economist who can assess what all the new rules, all the new jurisdictions and administrative structures that will cost additional monies so that the Fiscal Review Commission within short order does not have to go to the Minister of Finance to request additional funds because they now realize that the 6.8 is not adequate. So what I'm saying is, in addition to landmass and all of that he's articulated, how they came up with this 6.8, I think it's important to possibly have an economist who can assess, pretty closely how much monies, additional monies, Tobago would need.
Thank you.
Also, with respect to the revenue generation in Tobago, I noted that it said that Tobago would not be allowed to collect vehicular fines. And I don't know if you can explain why that is.
Where does it say that? If you're looking at the fourth schedule at item 19, that is not what it says. What it means is that Tobago cannot make its own laws in relation to vehicular traffic offenses, because those kinds of offenses would fall under the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of lawmaking power. But
in terms of collection,
where are you talking about collection?
Okay, there is somewhere in the bill. I don't have that in front of me. I just have my notes. But I would look at that again. And,
all right, and you can always send us something in writing in relation to that.
Yes, I would definitely do that along with my other submissions.
Okay.
Again, I will make it short because several persons wants to speak. And in addition to that, a lot of these concerns have been highly ventilated. But I want to finally say that Tobago, even if there were calls to reject this bill, I think that we have an obligation to unite and fight for what is right to be put into this bill. And therefore, I cannot subscribe to the fact that we reject this bill outright. So with that said, Madam Speaker, I thank you for your time and the opportunity to present today.
Ms. Alfred, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Cynthia Alfred, and I shall speak on, well, of course, we're talking about the two bills. I want to say—
Ms. Alfred, we're hearing you, but if you could position your camera a little differently, maybe a little lower, because we're just seeing the top of your head.
Oh, you know to do that. Is that better? Madam Chair, are you hearing me better now?
Hearing you, but we're not seeing you as yet.
Oh, are you seeing me now?
No, we're not, but we're hearing you. So please
right.
go ahead.
Okay. In addition, Madam Chair, to the two bills that are presented to us today, I would like to suggest that there should be a third document. I did not say a third bill, but a third document. And the reasons are this. Tobago is an island of roughly 60,000 persons. It took about 3 years for the then committee to talk to almost everybody in Tobago. I am sure that in the 2 to 3 years that have been taken by the Joint Select Committee, that most of Tobagonians would have forgotten what would have been submitted, what they said, and even what the bill that was sent by the Assembly had to say. So I am suggesting that in addition to the two bills, that there be by the committee, not a report, but an update to the people of Tobago, especially on what this whole thing is about. Many persons have forgotten, and I think it is in the interest of Tobagonians to be reminded of what this whole process is about. Because when the meeting started, the consultation started yesterday, Madam Chair, you gave some explanation on what the bills are about. But that is what the bills are about. But in respect of what would have led up to the actual coming into effect of the bills, that I think needs to be addressed. So that is my first point. The second point, I noticed that a unicameral status has been advanced. I do not know if I would have missed, perhaps where you would have given an explanation on why, but it does say in the bills that it is to recognize the equality of status between the island of Tobago and the island of Trinidad, of course, within the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago. So that having been said, Trinidad does not have a unicameral system. And therefore, my question is, why does Tobago have to have one? I am sure that there has to be an explanation. That's number two. The third point, these bills are not ordinary bills. These bills talk about the future of this island called Tobago. So we cannot deal, or we should not deal with these bills as if they were ordinary bills. I know sometimes in the Parliament, in the House of Representatives, and sometimes even in the Senate, the House of Representatives or the Senate might go right through the night to accomplish what they would have considered the importance of a particular bill. In this particular case, we have 2 days, yesterday and today. I understand that Monday most likely will not be in Tobago, it will be in Trinidad. But I am saying, after roughly 3 years of this committee, and I remember that the committee changed at one time, if I'm not mistaken, after approximately 3 years, for us to be given 2 days, to me, that is not enough. Because the persons who are going to talk now and who spoke yesterday, I am, excuse me, I am sure there are persons, additional persons, who would have wanted to express themselves. But because of 2 days, perhaps they will say perhaps another time. But we have to bear in mind that the 60 or so thousand persons that represent Tobago. Tobago is an island. Trinidad is an island. And if Tobago is an island, we cannot take 2 days, at least in my estimation. We should not take just 2 days to go through the bills as they are without perhaps one recognizing the need for the rest of Tobago to be more involved, because the persons who are making the presentations would have.
Ms. Alfred,
Yes,
let me just say that we will also be receiving written submissions. So it's not that it's just 2 days. We put out these bills for comment over a week ago. I think it was 2 weeks. They've been out about 2 weeks now. And we have asked for written submissions. What we're doing today, and we did yesterday, was ask for people to come in to us in the virtual space and tell us their submissions. And again, we indicated that if you had written submissions in addition, you could feel free to do that. So it's not that we're just giving 2 days for people to make submissions. And you will recall that these bills are all over Tobago and everyone is given the opportunity to make submissions. So it's not just 2 days.
All right, I take your point. Right, the other point I would like to make, Mr. Hojo Charles, I'm not going to go over what he said, but he did make a point that the bill he was talking about was sent to, well, the document he spoke about was sent to Trinidad. Madam Chair, if I remember correctly, you said you did not, when I say you, the committee, did not receive that bill. So it begs the question.
No.
Oh.
What I said is when the forum completed the bill that they thought was what reflected the will of the people of Tobago, a bill was sent to the cabinet in 2016, and that bill was sent by the cabinet to the parliament untouched, and the parliament established a joint select committee to deal with what was requested. After that committee had done its work, and there was a new parliament, a new joint select committee was established, and using some of the inputs from the previous committee, we are now before you with 2 bills, the Constitution Amendment Bill and the Tobago Island Government Bill.
I understand that, I hear you, but I made the point, I make the point, because the bill, what was sent by the Tobago House of Assembly, I presume that is out of that bill that these 2 bills have come forth. Yes? Right. So, I again asked the question, but you gave an explanation on what Mr. Charles would have said. Right. The other point I would like to make, right, yes. The Attorney General made a point, somebody made a point about Tobago cannot make a bill that would supersede the bill, the national bill or bill of parliament, right? But I am asking a question. The Attorney General made a point, and the example he gave to me was very, very interesting. He said, suppose the national bill says no death penalty in Trinidad and Tobago. And Tobago says, we would like to say something about that. Now, not necessarily to supersede the bill, but perhaps to give an opinion on what they think about a particular bill. how would you address a particular case like that? In other words, I got the impression that the Tobago bill cannot supersede the national bill. Okay, we say, all right. But suppose Tobago does have a problem or a situation where Tobago feels that it has to make some sort of intervention with respect to the bill. What happens in a case like that?
Then the intervention can be made.
The intervention can be made. Right. And I come, Madam Chairman, to the almost to the end of my submissions. And without repeating anything that has been said, I would like to thank you, the committee, for the question of town and country planning, because you mentioned it a little while ago. Town and country planning coming under the Tobago, that is where Tobago is concerned, coming under the jurisdiction of Tobago, town and country planning. Because I want to add one more thing, Madam President. There is this question. Sometimes it takes 10, 15 years to solve problems with respect to town and country planning in Tobago. And I would like to see that Tobago handles that portfolio where we do not have to wait 10 or 15 years. And not only the town and country planning bill, but other things that go with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Alfred. Your submissions have been noted and we appreciate it.
Thank you
very much.
You're welcome.
I will now give the floor to Kevin Phillips.
Hi, pleasant good afternoon to the esteemed panel and to the distinguished chairman. Well, first and foremost, I would like to express thanks for the opportunity to more or less comment. I will try my best not to be repetitive in nature due to the deliberations that would have taken place prior to me coming on. They would have more or less expressed the sentiments that I would have wanted to bring across. However, Ms. Alfred would have indicated something making reference to a third document, but not necessarily, I don't necessarily think that there's a requirement for a third document, but there needs to be a pathway or an avenue to further sensitize persons with regards to what it is that is being brought before the people of Tobago to make a decision upon. Because based upon the different contributions that would have been made earlier today and even yesterday, it is in my opinion that there seems to be manifestations of some level of confusion or understanding of what it is the two bills have been more or less designed to do, as in the sense that from these manifestations, from these positions, one must ask what it is that we really want. What are the expectations? As in a sense, we are hearing three different narratives coming from contributors that more or less ventilate autonomy, that ventilates secession, and also ventilates federalism. And it begs one to wonder, are we facing somewhat of a Brexit type of situation where persons are advocating for something that we don't fully understand? Is it that we no longer want to be part of a unitary state, where there are questions of whether or not the significance of a title being bestowed as Premier or Chief Secretary, where in truth and in fact, the rationale behind Premier, I am just simply saying, could have been the fact that you want to clearly establish that this portfolio heads the government of an island, and you need to clearly distinguish between the person that heads the island's government from the Prime Minister, which heads the national or unitary state government as per se. So there is significance. But the reason where you would have questions regarding the devolution of responsibilities and all of that is, do we understand that we are not seeking secession, but we are seeking self-determination? And is it now a requirement for the committee and those responsible for the proper dissemination of this information to once again go through that process of ensuring that the body politic and the masses within the 116 square mile space, by extension, the 1,981 square mile space, to have a full understanding of what it is we are trying to establish.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Phillips, and in terms of communication, you may be quite accurate that a little more needs to be said. We understand that because there does seem to be that confusion. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, Chair, because in order for all stakeholders to have a full appreciation and understanding of the very intricate but important process, one must understand first and foremost what it is we are trying to achieve, what it is we are aspiring to. And I am quite sure that in the good sense and good nature of things, even before this particular bill, Act 37 of 1980, Act 40 of 1996, that it is in my view that it was never the intent for us to separate ourselves totally from the unitary state that we can all benefit from. And it speaks as well to what the Attorney General would have said, that if it is that pathway is one that one wishes to embark upon, the exclusive economic zone and all of that comes into question, the maritime boundaries and all the demarcation points. The bill speaks to the fact that we are currently in a transitory, or what we wish to achieve is a transitory pathway from just simply being able to make bylaws to actually making laws, which is a significant step. Even in when we had sought independence prior to 1962, the current constitutional framework that governs the nation was not what exists today. It is ergonomic in nature. So a lot of the questions that we tend to have as why this isn't mentioned. What about the infrastructural capacity in the House to have 15 additional members? All of that is a work in process, and as human beings, while we make laws are made to be modified and altered as time goes by, and as the need analysis is done to further enhance how these laws could be suitably assigned to meet the needs of persons. Laws are ergonomic in nature. They are very organic. The most important thing is making the stride in a progressive nature to have these laws enacted for the betterment of our society.
That is well said, yes.
So I don't want to harp too much and take up too much time, distinguished chairman and the panel, but I believe that there is a responsibility to further sensitize people on the rudimentary level of what it is we are trying to aspire to establish, that it is not secession. It is not that we are now going into a geographic silo and still more or less seek this requirement according to the Dispute Resolution Commission for the larger part of our Twin Island Republic to fund us, because there's conflict more or less between, is it that we have federalism, secession, autonomy? Is it an autonomous agreement? So I am hoping that more clarity would come where there are pathways of further enlightenment and awareness of what it is we want to achieve, that we first must establish what we really want and not have a Brexit-like situation that after we make a particular demand, we now ask ourselves what we have done.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. Appreciate it. And someone just told me that today is your birthday. So on behalf of the committee, we want to wish you a very happy birthday and many more happy returns.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We now ask Jaron Smith to take the floor. Jaron Smith, the floor is yours. Is Anthony Hector there? If Mr. Hector is there, you can take the floor. We're not hearing Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Mr. Hector.
You and your committee members, both in Trinidad and Tobago, and all other participants who took the time to participate in this very important exercise. Can I preface my comments, which will be brief because I realize in the interest of time, we have to be reasonable. Can I preface my comments by saying that this is my third reincarnation of this exercise so that I can describe myself as a student of this important exercise. So firstly, I want to re-emphasize a point I made previously, which was that the term that should be used for both male and female gender, and then I've updated it since then, to mean assembly representative. And I was
Mr. Hector, we did get that request.
You got that for me?
We will.
You got that for me?
No, this is the first time we're hearing from you.
Oh,
but
really?
we did that request
okay.
Previously. So,
oh, well, yeah, but
yes,
I said that before, but I want to add to that I would like to include the possibility of transgender being included in the conversation as we go forward in that particular category of individuals participating in the exercise of governance going forward. Well, I will speak to this in my own time, in my own space. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now the question of independence, as well, you may or may not have been aware, I also raised that as the first in this conversation before. I'm seeing it appearing, and I'm suggesting that we do not use an even number in going forward with this exercise. I'm seeing 2, and I'm suggesting 3, just in the event that an important discussion takes place amongst them so that they can better see the circumstances unevenly rather than evenly. And as I make that point, Madam Chair, as I examine the documents before us, I want to say that it appears as though we are producing out of Tobago public servants corresponding or working in a system that will not be productive for the benefit of the residents or the benefit of the nation that should be Tobago. And I'm happy that the Attorney General is somewhere hearing or somewhere paying attention to this particular matter.
Mr. Hector,
Yes.
in relation to the two bills that are before us, can you tell me where in the bills you have
Independence?
come to that, the conclusion about productivity?
No, I am giving my submission now. I am free to give my submission.
No, I haven't said no. I'm just asking in relation to the issue of productivity.
Yeah, I'm saying that what I have seen of the bills.
Yeah, so could
if you have
tell
not seen it,
where?
I can submit it to you. What
Yes,
I've seen of the bills is that we have produced documents to make us public servants out of Tobago instead of being productive individuals that can contribute to the development of a country that can be made up of two islands. I'm saying so far.
Okay, so I'm now all right, sorry, I'm now understanding what you're saying.
Okay.
Because I heard you mention productivity. So
yes, I'm very concerned about productivity.
All right, thanks very much.
I've seen a picture developing. I'm seeing a trend developing where we in Tobago must become responsible. If we are not already responsible, more responsible, we must become productive. If we are not productive, to become more productive. And as I've said to you before, that we are entitled to having a mind of our own. You all don't like the words that I used the last time, so I'll leave it there. Now, another quick point, so I'll try to make it fast in the interest of the rest of participants. I would like to have suggested as part of the exercise, or having scanned the document quickly, that the Tobago House of Assembly as a body should debate these documents before us and pass it also, just as Parliament will pass it, so that we will see transparency and we'll see accountability coming from both sides. Too often we have seen a lopsided arrangement where everything must be said or done out of Trinidad. I am suggesting in this particular case, the Tobago House of Assembly as a body must debate and discuss and agree, and if possible, pass these matters that are being discussed that will only go to Parliament, which obtained in the past. I'm saying let's go forward, looking better and more mature than we have done in the past. I'm moving quickly forward. The question of equality of status, I would like to suggest that we outline what each country or island is bringing to the table. As I scanned the document, all I saw was some sections talking about Little Tobago and things like that. I would like to see all the resources of both islands come to the table and let us for sure know who has what. Because I've heard the AG say that we cannot disaggregate what we will bring to the table in Tobago because of the fact that it's one country that comprises of all. We are mature enough. We must advance. If we move from infancy to youth, to adult, to old age, there must be a process taking us through life. And I'm asking, please, and I'm begging that all the resources be placed on the table, even if you want to bring them all together as one. I am requesting kindly that we have all the resources of both islands and both nations placed on the table. I will try to wrap up in the interest of time because I could get my own space. Now, Section 6C. Now, we have had experiences in the past, I don't know if the AG did the research, where in 1990, and we had another instance of a court matter in the Caribbean where Tobago's waters were determined, and as a result, we won the flying fish case. I don't know if you don't remember that particular case there, Madam Chair. So I want to put the two of them as examples on the table. We have had that particular case where Tobago was afforded the right to this flying fish in our waters, which has been demarcated and can be demarcated. I would like to add to that when we look back at history, and I've been a good student of history, in 1990, the then Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly and the then Prime Minister agreed that Tobago could control whatever is happening in its own space under the circumstances in a state of emergency. And I'm suggesting that we consider in a future circumstance that if, God forbid, that any kind of circumstance faces us, man-made or through natural disasters, Tobago be afforded the opportunity to make decisions that are relevant to its own circumstances on behalf of its own people. I would leave it there because I don't want to be unreasonable, but I still had 61(1) A and B and 65(75)(1) A and B and 14(A)/B. But I want to be reasonable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hector.
For now, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very
much. Have a great evening.
Same to you. Thank you for participating. I will now call Jaron Smith. Can I ask Nkosi Philip to take the floor, please?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, sorry, a pleasant good afternoon to the chair and the other members of the JSC, both Trinidad and Tobago. I won't be too long because what happened, I would have seen some of the issues being touched on the self-government bill, but if I raise some of the topics and it's already been touched on, you could tell me so I can pass them on, please. First of all, let me just say, the Tobago Self Government Bill 2020, since we're in 2021, should it be 2021 self-government bill?
No.
Hello?
We will deal with that.
Okay, thank you. In the 5th schedule, I do not see you had anything for transportation under the schedule. So this begs the question, who is responsible for Tobago's transportation as it relates to the...
We will deal with that. We will deal with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay, I'll pass that on. The Tobago Legislative Clause 18. Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
We're dealing with Nkosi Philip. Go ahead, please.
Yes. The Tobago Legislative in Clause 18, the committee proposes a unicameral Tobago Legislative with 26 members empowering to make laws referred to as the Tobago Act for Peace, Order, and Good Governance of Tobago. I just want you to, if you all could add here, because although we would have discussed it on the previous discussion, 15 members elected as assemblymen, 10 councillors, which is appointed, 5 appointed by the advice of the Premier, 3 advice of the minority leader, and 2 by the President. Some people still question that is 25 members, but they want to know if you can make it clear that the 26th member being the presiding officer. The Tobago Island, okay, the Tobago Island Government Bill. With this bill being passed, questions will there be a rebuilding or relocation of the assembly now having more seats and members to the legislative arm of the THA once the bill is proclaimed? And we're also looking at, since there's a Tobago Island Government Bill, would there be one in Trinidad as well? The Financial Provisions Part 5, Clause 22 to 30, Paragraph 1. Annual minimum budgetary allocation of 6.8 of the total budget expenditure is being proposed in Clause 22. Questions. Commission was invoked in court where we know there was a court case in regards to the 6.8%, but no government has gone above 4.3%. Who is to say that with this bill going forward, we are going to receive that allocation of the 6.8%? And shouldn't there be a better formula should be inserted into and discussed for financial autonomy? What I believe we have now is a ratio. So I think going forward, if we can have a proper proposed ratio of how we can get that 8.8%, I think that should be inserted as well. But I think as it stands now, all we have is a ratio. Paragraph 4, why do we need the Minister of Finance approval to borrow? Why not deal directly with the central government? And would we still have to wait on Trinidad's, we would have to still wait on Trinidad approval to get to borrow as well? I think I have this right. Tobago's allocation from the government, sorry. So these are some of the notes and questions let's put forward. I want us to take note that many contentious clauses are not in the survey created by your parliament. So some of the clauses that we find in this discussion, they are not on your parliament website. No federal arrangement. I think I heard you all talk about federal arrangements already, so I'll pass that off. Concerns again, right. I am of the view that once the Teaching Service Commission has the right implementation and it is in the right framework, it will be a plus for the Teaching Service Commission in Tobago. And I applaud that being a part of the bill. And I think that we should also have autonomy over the control of the Teacher Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, and the Police Service Commission. Definitions of Tobago needs to be rectified in regards to mileage of the Tobago needs to be addressed. Why the nautical miles were removed, I think I heard some sort of discussion with that yesterday, but I think they need a more transparent discussion so we could take to persons on the street, the average persons. Is there any economic zone on the seas of Tobago? Concern number 4, we have control over public utilities, but I think they took out the Met Office. Why does the Premier have power to have a larger executive than the Assembly? There is not enough non-executive members to overthrow the Executive Council oversight over the executive or the House. Another concern is in the early part of the bill, it speaks about recognizing the right of people of Tobago to determine in Tobago their political status, to freely pursue their cultural and economic development. But how do you pursue your economic development in Tobago and all the resources are not available to Tobagoans as yet? How do you also pursue your political development if what you do have to subject to a national parliament that is not a part of our federal arrangements? Not putting in the boundaries, you are denying Tobagoans.
Could I just say that we have had no instructions to determine a federal arrangement.
Nice.
The instructions are that there is a parliament for the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And what we are doing is determining internal self-government for Tobago. We have no instructions to determine a federal system or secession or independence. What the instructions that we got from Tobago was that Tobago wanted autonomy and within the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not a federal system we're determining.
Nice, thank you. Well, I will not stay long because, as I said, most of the subjects and the areas were touched before. My executive will be forwarding something towards the JSC, and I hope some of the initiatives there will be added and discussed into the bill. In closing, I would like to say it's very easy, however, to take liberty for granted and to misconstrue just how difficult it was and would be for us Tobagonians to gain our own freedom or autonomy status with the lack of equitable share in these two pieces of bill drafted and handed to us like a thief in the night. No, Tobago's autonomy or freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It's fighting here today and in the future to pass to our children in the bloodstreams. It must be fought, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may lead, like sheep to the slaughter. Liberty has not or never come from the government. Liberty has always come from the subject of it. The history of liberty is a history of resistance. And I don't believe that we the Tobagonians want to resist the bill. And I'm hoping that, in my view, I do feel that the bill is a little rushed. I think there are still parts in the bill that needs to be addressed. And I think that not just sitting here before the Joint Select Committee and giving the views that, it will just pass on like that. I hope that whatever is being put forward, that the committee will really look into some of the inserts that were put forward, and it will come back to us before it is passed in the parliament or to debate in the parliament. And I believe Mr. Hector would have spoken about debating it in the assembly. We do not have a constituted assembly at this point in time. So I think, before things are rushed, we do not want to have a full resistance of resisting the bill, because if you resist the bill, what is there in place to put there? So I think that all of us should work together still and continue to put inserts to make sure that this bill actually is proclaimed in the right framework for the people of Tobago. And I thank the JSC for doing a very excellent work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And please be reminded that if you have any more points or if you want to reiterate your points, you can send them to us in writing. Thank you very much for your participation.
Will do. Thank you very much.
We have been trying to get Jaron Smith. If that was it. Mr. Smith?
Yes, good afternoon, Miss.
Afternoon.
The Honorable Minister, I believe it is offline. Yes, I was basically reading through the document that was sent. I got it like yesterday. However, there was one point I was going to raise, which was actually dealing with the borders, but yes. Is this good enough, Miss? Hello?
We're hearing you.
Yes, right. Was with the whole discussion with the nautical miles and stuff like that, that I know was in several reincarnations of a draft that was sent, but I realized that that was dealt with and that has been exhausted, so I shall not try to elucidate on that anymore. However, I was reading through it again and I saw that there is one here with regards to, like, in the old bill, there was usually a limit for the number of secretaries that can be had. But I'm seeing that in this new document that that is not the case. Is it that will only fall under the jurisdiction of the Premier, or is it that will be added in after? Right? That's my first one. Again, my other point was with the whole tie-breaking mechanism. I did not see anything in the bill to deal with the tie-breaking mechanism, but I guess that was dealt with already. My other point is with regards to this mediation committee that I'm seeing here. I would like to ask, does this replace the Dispute Resolution Commission? And is it that I'm seeing that it is largely somewhat partisan in that it would comprise mainly of persons that would have some political affiliation? Is it that this will also be reviewed in the future? The other point that I am...
Yes, it will.
Yes. I'm seeing here also within your schedules, I think it's either the 4th or the 5th schedule, where I'm seeing that the island government has the provision to borrow, right, in the act, but under the schedule, we do not have authority to borrow from external sources, but in the bill itself, it is saying that we can borrow from any source that we choose. Is that an inconsistency, or is it that I'm missing something here with regards to the document?
The borrowings will be both internal and external. So where you see except under the 5th schedule, external, that will be taken out.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
very much.
you're welcome.
6.8%, right, that I'm seeing here. I know that this was also dealt with, but is it that we have not asked for 8% in previous incarnations? Even the bill, I think that was sent down in 2018 has 8%. I know that the one that was presented in the House had 8%. I know that there was one with the John Prince, I think, went up to as high as 10%. So I don't know if this is something that is definitive in terms of the financial appropriation for Tobago. The one thing that I do like is that what I was hearing during the break is that the financial appropriation that Tobago does no longer has to be sent to Trinidad for approval. And I think that is a step in the right direction. However, I do have some serious, some concerns with some that are largely, some that are, I believe that it has been rushed. And I think that more time should be really given to Tobagonians to really peruse this document before it actually goes to the House. Is it that there will be a wider consultation before it is presented to the House? Is it that
Mr. Smith, what will happen after this series of consultations? We will take on board what has been said. We're also anticipating that there will be written submissions. We will take all these into consideration, and we will see how we move forward in this regard. We do have a date of May 31st to return to the House with the report of the Joint Select Committee. But as I said, we will take all of these issues under consideration.
Okay, thanks very much, Madam Minister. So I take it that this that is before us is not really, it is not finitum, it is not final.
As it's a draft, it's 2 draft bills that we have brought to the public for your examination and further consultations. So all stakeholders can make their presentations either before us in this virtual forum, or they can write their comments, or they can do both. So you can submit written comments to us in addition to what you're saying today, and anybody else can submit written comments to us.
Yes, Madam Minister, and also, yes, Madam Minister, another thing, is there any provision for a holdover?
Sorry, I'm not understanding you.
So in this current incarnation, because of the 6-6 tie, I believe that the executive stands to remain. Is it until such time as this can be resolved, right?
It's not before us. That is not before this committee. That is not within our remit.
Oh, I thought it was. So that's my contribution. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for participating. We appreciate your comments. I'll now move to Mr. Reginald Vidal, who's the last stakeholder that's before us today. Mr. Vidal. Ladies and gentlemen, it would appear as though we have completed our consultations for today. And as I close, on behalf of the committee, I wish to thank all those who participated with us today. And again, I want to thank those who participated yesterday. Clearly, this has been a very interesting and worthwhile discussion. To all who joined us and made comments, we are indeed grateful. I say thank you again on behalf of the members of the Joint Select Committee. We believe that this is the best methodology of lawmaking. What we're doing here happens all over the world. Lawmakers, with the aid of draftsmen and constitutional experts and other legal experts and other experts, propose legislative drafts and then hear from the people, especially for complex constitutional matters. With lawmaking, no side, no group can get all that it seeks, and that is normal. It does not mean that no progress is made. It is, though, unfortunate that so many of our brothers and sisters in Tobago who have spoken seem to hold the view that there is an unwillingness by this committee to give Tobago the autonomy it deserves within the framework of the unitary sovereign state of Trinidad and Tobago. Nothing could be further from the truth. As a committee and as the team that brought this legislation before the Parliament through the Cabinet, we are committed to creating a mechanism for the running of the affairs of Tobago by Tobagonians, for the autonomy that they have so long requested, and that has taken some time over the years to get us to this point, because there is quite a high level of autonomy as it is now in Tobago. Such a mechanism will be part of the overall government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Like many of you who spoke to us both yesterday and today, we continue to seek to form a central government in Tobago, not totally mirroring what exists at the level of the national government, but with all the elements. And that is to say, a legislature, an executive, all made up of Tobagonians, making decisions for Tobago, as well as arrangements for oversight as determined by Tobago. All will run and be operated by Tobagonians for Tobago. But remember that this entire Tobago governance structure, although autonomous in nature, comes under the wider umbrella of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Having heard from the stakeholders today, we of this committee feel confident that we can iron out all the concerns expressed, even if not to the full extent desired, given that we are limited by the framework of our Constitution. And when I say our Constitution, I mean the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Constitution that belongs to all of us. And we cannot expand our remit. We look forward to our continued discussions and remain committed to this process. Thank you again to those who joined us today and very stridently and passionately shared their views. Today, we heard from James Armstrong, Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, Janae Campbell, Margaret Parks, Aisha Bedlow, Max James, James Trim, Shirley Cook, Anthony Hector, Calvin Phillips, Jaron Smith, and yes, we heard from Aisha Bedlow, and we thank you all for participating. And we also heard from Nikosi Phillips. Yes, Nikosi Phillips. Thank you all for participating, and these discussions will continue. We also remind you that we anticipate that those of you who did not participate virtually will send your comments in writing, and even those of you who did participate virtually, that you will send any further comments you have in writing. Thank you, and as I said, the discussions will continue, and we look forward to meeting with you again. Thank you, and thank you to the Joint Select Committee team, the team from the Parliament, and the team from the Chief Parliamentary Council. Thank you, and may God continue to bless us all.
Certain rights exclusively to the island of Tobago. Tobago will become an autonomous region free to pursue its economic, social, and cultural development within the margins of the Constitution of the Sovereign Unitary State of Trinidad and Tobago. The bill clearly affirms that both islands are equal, none superior to the other. Therefore, any reference to Tobago as a ward of Trinidad is to be removed from all laws or other records